Hello. It's been a minute. It's currently 10:34 p.m. Wednesday, March 25, and I realized I forgot to make this video for you guys, and it was super important. So, um, your assignment today is going to be to go to the worksheet that I posted on Moodle, which is going to be just another thing of practice on identifying the trig ratios, because we've got these functions sine, cosine, and tangent, and there are certain ratios that correspond to each of those trig functions. Now, there's a lot of fancy and confusing and difficult language here. And so I want you to just kind of treat these, and I tried to color coordinate these to try to keep them all matched up, but just try to sort this and make some sense and some pattern here. And what we often remember, and what was I going to say? Oh, sorry, drew a blank there. The way that we remember the ratios is through this acronym called SOHCAHTOA. And SO stands for sine, because sine is going to be the ratio of opposite divided by hypotenuse. C for cosine is going to be the ratio adjacent divided by hypotenuse. And TOA, the tangent, is going to be equal to the opposite divided by the adjacent. So I've got a triangle here, a 3, 4, 5 triangle. And now the thing that you always want to remember is the hypotenuse is always going to be the side length that is opposite your right angle. So in this case, this is going to be my hypotenuse. Now I don't think that this is working. And that's not the right thickness. So there's my hypotenuse, h. Now these other sides are either going to be the adjacent or the opposite side. But it depends on what angle we're looking at. So in this assignment, you're going to be asked to identify. So if I say the sine of angle A, well, angle A is right here at the vertex A. And sine is always the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. So the opposite side length of A is right across, so it's 3, and the hypotenuse is always going to be 5. So the sine of A is going to equal opposite of which is 3 divided by 5. Excuse me. Now, the cosine of A, well, cosine is adjacent divided by hypotenuse. Well, if the opposite side length of A is 3, and we know that the hypotenuse is 5, adjacent is the next door neighbor, the side that's right next to our angle, so that's going to be 4. So the cosine of A is going to equal 4 divided by 5, adjacent over hypotenuse. Now, last but not least, we've got tangent. And the tangent we know as being the opposite divided by the adjacent. Opposite over adjacent. So the opposite is 3, and we just decided the adjacent is 4 here. So opposite divided by adjacent is going to be 3 divided by 4. Notice these angles these ratios are all different from each other. 3/5, 4/5, and 3/5. They're all different, which is what you want. Now, let's move on to angle B over here. The sine of angle B is going to be opposite divided by hypotenuse. The opposite is going to be different here because B is a different location on our triangle. So the opposite is not going to be 3 anymore. It's opposite with respect to the angle. So the opposite will be 4 in this case. So the sine of B is opposite divided by hypotenuse. And so that is going to be 4 divided by 5. The hypotenuse is always 5. Now the cosine of angle B is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. Well, adjacent is going to be different than what adjacent was originally. Now the hypotenuse is still going to be divided by 5, but what goes first? what's adjacent to angle B? Well, what's right next door? Either 5 or 3. Well, 5 is the hypotenuse, so that can't be adjacent, so it's got to be the 3. And we know that 4 is opposite, so it's got to be 3. So it's 3 divided by 5 as my cosine. Then finally the third, we've got the tangent of angle B. Oops, didn't mean to do that. That's the opposite divided by adjacent. The opposite side of my angle B is 4, and the adjacent side is 3. Well, because 5 is the hypotenuse and 3 is the next door neighbor. So 4 divided by 3. Now again, notice 4/5, 3/5, 4/3, all different. Now you see some repeats from before, right? 3/5 and 3/5, 4/5, 4/5, but 4/3 and 3/4. That's different. That's good. Okay, finally, now let's pick angle C. I have this here because I want us to think, oh wait, we'll just go along with it. We actually never take the sine, cosine, and tangent of a right angle. You'll learn eventually that the sine of a 90-degree angle is 1, and the cosine of a 90-degree angle is 0. And so you end up with just common 1, 0, 1, 0. So these three pieces here we are not going to worry about. We actually will never take the sine or the cosine of the right angle. And so on the worksheet you will see that I don't ask you to find the sine or the cosine of a right angle. But yeah, that about does it. So this is kind of a review. The worksheet has 8 different problems. It's just you doing this same thing that I did. What's your angle that they're asking you to do? What's the trig function? And what is the ratio that goes with the trig function? Opposite over hypotenuse, adjacent over hypotenuse, or opposite over adjacent. I think that this should be pretty straightforward. You guys are doing an amazing job. I'm very proud of you all. Please ask questions in that Google Doc if you have them. And I also really hope that you watch this video so that you're just staying up to pace. Thank you for listening and watching. And again, let me know if you have questions. Tomorrow's Friday. We can do it. Hang in there.